If you just want to check out Red Rocks worship, I listen to it everywhere. I listen to it in the car, listen to it while I'm cleaning.
It's like one of those things you look forward to. It's like annual rebirth of what we should be doing.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Burn the Ships. As always, Chad Cabalka with my man, Garrett Townsend. We're just a couple of guys having real conversations and burning the ships, not turning back, focusing on God and growth. How you doing today, GT?
I'm doing good. It's been a minute since we've done this. So
I know. Summer is hard.
Yeah, it is.
Our industries are busier.
Yep.
Kids are at home, trips. It's a hard time to get together for these things, but it's good for the soul to be back with you, bud.
It is good for the soul, and I think we've committed to getting back on track and just making it a podcast golf every other week.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get more
You can kick my butt on the golf course.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It depends on the day, I guess, right?
Dude, this episode I am excited about. So if you guys have followed us much, you know that we're both members of Red Rocks Church here in Colorado. You can check them out online on YouTube. They also have a campus in Austin and Brussels. They do a God Behind Bars. They do telecast to, I think, 3 different prisons. I know there's a women's correctional, a male correctional, but it's awesome. And it's founded by Pastor Sean Johnson, and he fully admits he's a broken man just trying to lead people to Jesus. I mean, their slogan is they're just trying to make heaven more crowded, and we love them very much.
Yeah, they were just a bunch of broken people pursuing a perfect God.
Amen. That's exactly what they say.
Pretty much what it is. And I think that what we love about it is, the reality is we're all broken, every one of us. And I think you and I are really good at recognizing that, and just, every day is just a day to get a little bit better.
Yep.
And that's what I love about this church. I mean, there's nobody standing on a stage talking to you that doesn't feel equally as broken as the rest of us,
Yeah, they fully admit that they're just as broken as everybody else.
Just sharing the message.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing because it has really kind of become a local cultural phenomenon almost, where Red Rocks has, I don't want to say taken over because that's the wrong word, but has created this beautiful family in Denver of, people that I would have never expected to go to church. Mm-hmm. They go there and feel so welcome and so unjudged, and the messages are so impactful and meaningful to everyday life, and people really can connect with it and vibe with it. And not to mention the freaking music is out of this world.
Yeah, well,
it's so freaking good. If you just want to check out Red Rocks worship, I listen to it everywhere. I listen to it in the car, listen to it while I'm cleaning, I listen to it when I'm at the gym, and I'm typically a metalhead at the gym to get the energy up, but I'll find myself throwing on Red Rocks worship when I'm at the gym. So they're awesome.
Honestly, guys, as well as I know, like they're about to plant a church in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think Sean's real goal is to try to find the most messed up places, I guess to say, or the places that probably need Jesus the most, and plant churches there and see if they can make a difference. I don't think that was maybe it whenever they started here, as they've grown over the last 20 years. I know they just had an anniversary. I guess it was I think their big move is to find areas around the country that are really struggling and plant churches. It's a beautiful thing. And you can check out all their sermons on YouTube. They upload all of them. They have an amazing AV crew there. But so for this one, we're reacting to one of the pastors, the head pastor of the Austin location, Doug Weckerman. Yep. Mm-hmm. They're doing a relational series right now, relationships. It is literally the best series of any church. Good. Every single year, it's their relationship series that they do every year. It's like one of those things you look forward to. It's like annual rebirth of what we should be doing.
We need it. Shoot, I wish they do it every quarter, but they obviously can't. There's there's a lot for them to cover being a church, but it is something I genuinely look forward to it too. They've done vows in the past and other ones that are just so powerful, and you always leave with something, always.
Well, buddy, I'm gonna tell you, like this sermon particularly, Rachel and I, we were struggling with some things. I think it was a little bit more on her side, and I think when she watches it, she'll think it's fair for me to say that. When we were watching this one, we actually could not make it to this one because of Bo's baseball schedule, so we actually watched it in bed one morning before we had to take off for the ballpark. She was in tears, because it was some things that she and I have been struggling with. We were at that point, and literally it was something that Doug said in the service, and I think he was just talking more about the complimenting thing and how simple men are, and we just want to hear the smallest compliments can go a long ways. She, I think, realized it had been the case for us or for her for a while, and man, I looked over and dude, she was just tears rolling down her face, so I could tell it really moved her. You know, again, what these things are supposed to be is a wake up, right? Things changed immediately after that.
So the sermon is called Battle of the Sexes.
Difference between men and women, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Before I watched it, because I watched it online as well, I expected it to be very much based on, you know, society and men going into women's sports and that kind of thing. And that wasn't at all. It's how men and women, both consciously and unconsciously, are competing against each other within the relationship, where roles are getting either erased or reversed, or there's resentment and animosity because one person isn't doing what the other one is expecting. And I guarantee if you're in a relationship, if you want to be in a relationship, the perfect sermon for people in relationships to hear right now.
She hits on the marital relationship, but also the place relationship, the whole female male, obviously more weight, how detrimental in the home. I think it's pretty obvious when God made us, every one of us, right? I mean, when he made man and made woman, he didn't make them compete.
And Doug has such like a eloquent goofiness about his sermons that what he says is so impactful, but he says it in such a way that you're gonna laugh. The guy is genuinely funny. It's just you can connect to it really easy. When he first started talking, when the sermon opened and he was talking about how different men and women are, and you can just look packing for a trip, that was so Kylie and I, it's not even funny, where he was like, she will have 7 outfits perfectly coordinated, perfectly in her suitcase the week before, and it weighs 49.9 pounds so that you don't get double charged for it. And I was like, oh my God, if that is not my wife. Man is over there the night before packing his bag, throwing it all together, and as he's running out the door, he just remembers his toothbrush. That is literally me. That sums up our relationship perfectly.
Rachel will start packing 2 days before, and the difference, if we're flying Southwest, we have 2 bags. It could be a weekend trip, and she will pack 2 suitcases, 49 pounds for a 4-day trip. Or I've got my little carry-on, and I just throw shorts, t-shirts, jeans, sneakers, workout clothes, and I'm out.
The only time packing for me is complicated is if I'm playing golf. That's really the only time it gets complicated. The rest of the time is really easy. So talking biblically, you mentioned it, how God created man first and then created the woman from the man. I love what Doug said when he said a man's job is to protect. That is the core thing about a man, is he's to protect his family. And God took a rib from the man, and the rib protects the heart. I listen, cage is what's protecting everything, and God, that piece of the man to make the woman, and the woman is the heart and the man is the head. And just the way he eloquently put that together, we were meant from the beginning to have the roles in the family and in the home that we have. And it's not supposed to be some stupid competition against each other. And I love the way that Doug put that.
Yeah, I think in society today, I mean, it's kind of hard, man, because there's all this, big feminist movement. Let's face it, in every household nowadays, typically it's a 2-income household.
An unfortunate society. It's an economic
demand, and it's rare. I mean, we dig into people's finances. I do for a living, and you as well. I mean, you don't dig into that side of it. And it's rare these days for us to get a borrower where you've got a stay-at-home mom, the dad that just does it all financially.
Speaking to my situation, we kind of fit traditional setup where I'm the main breadwinner, and Kylie works part-time because she has type 1 diabetes and has to have incredible benefits, or else we'd go bankrupt paying for instance. So she works at an OBGYN, but primarily she's a stay-at-home mom, and I could not do what I do without her. Period, point blank, end of story. She is the rock of our family. That goes without saying. We're very blessed that we get to live at least semi, and I think it goes a long way for me in my business, and I love being the provider. It gives me a sense of purpose, so many things that maybe men who are being out-earned by their wives, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but internally, it's going to screw with a guy. I guarantee it.
And they won't admit it. The guy's not going to admit it. But I had friends in those positions in the past. I wouldn't say as much if the wife is just a little bit more of an earner. However, when it's a stay-at-home dad, and I've seen that situation, and I've literally seen the situation flip, where all of a sudden he went from being a stay-at-home dad to mom's business got really slow, or wife's business got really slow, and then he went back to work. And the difference in that person in that role versus the stay-at-home dad role, I mean, I've seen it with 2 close personal friends. A huge difference. Different confidence, how they walk, how they talk, how they carry themselves, everything. But going back to the conversation that when Rachel and I first met, I mean, it was busier than the normal. I mean, we were in 2020 and the very beginning of 2020, April or something like that. That was when we're in the threes. So, I mean, I'm working 10 hours a day. We have, 50 loans in our pipeline 2 years straight. And so it was crazy. And then, and then the exact opposite happened. It started slowing down in 2022 when rates started going up. And then 23 rates went to 8%. And I mean, I made less money probably in 23 than I did my first 2 years in the business. But nevertheless, with that, Rachel's business started picking up. And, when it comes to, I was carrying all the weight from the household income piece, covering everything, just taking care of the house, pitching in where she could or whatnot. And I'm going to tell you, I could see just because of who she is, there was like a self-worth, almost like a competition, like she feels less important than me or whatever. And that's just the way it's, no matter who's pulling more weight financially, it's a partnership. And I think as long as you communicate, and which we did through Eddie, of course, we communicated on, who's pulling more weight here, where we should expect more in these different areas. And I mean, and now we're at a point where, it's probably pretty equal on the financial side. I mean, I may carry just a little bit more on the weight, but there's been months, in the last couple of years, there's been months where I didn't carry any weight and she carried all. But we've done a pretty good job of good about helping out around the house. I'm not like one of those dudes that says I work, that's a woman's job, whatever. I mean, to me, it's like, again, it's a partnership. I think where the man carries more of the financial weight, so they automatically assume that the wife should carry all the household weight. I tell you, man, I don't know very many women that are okay with that. It usually is a problem. It's usually like, you do the dishes, you fold some clothes, and then there becomes that resentment piece.
Well, I think a big reason for that, what women's love languages are, where men, we're not acts of service. We don't need you doing stuff for us. We are words of affirmation, physical touch.
I think if you literally if they did a poll on it.
You give me a compliment about something and, give me a real big hug and a kiss. Women are complicated. They need more than that. And that is how God made them. And they need acts of service. Well, a lot of men say, well, I'm bringing in all the money. That's my act of service. She doesn't sit next to you all day watching you deal with this client or this loan that's not working or doing all this prospecting. She doesn't get to see all that. Yes, she sees money in the bank.
They don't actually see the grind. They're not in there when you're making 20 phone calls on the road to that meeting, go to that meeting, 20
because
phone
while
calls
you're
back.
doing that, they are at home taking care of the kids, doing the dishes, doing the... So when you come home from work, to all you men out there, and me included, I'm speaking to myself, when you've had a long, hard day of work, strap your boots on even harder when you get home and take some of the stuff off her plate. Do cook dinner and clean dinner. Don't cook it and be like, okay, I cooked, now you clean. Take a huge piece off of her, and that is what her love language is. You need to understand that is what she expects and will need from you. It's not just using you as a paycheck. She needs to see it and feel it and know that you are taking some of the household load off of her.
And most women out there, I mean, I don't have any documented research of this, but I guarantee I'm right. Most women are physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, and acts of service. That is the top three. And the reality of it is like you said, come home, do the acts of service, but also the words of affirmation. When you come home to a clean house, maybe sometimes just acknowledge that. Like, it's not just expected. That's just what my wife does. Maybe take the time to go, babe, you know how amazing it is that I get to come home after literally slaying it all day and come home to a clean house and it smells good when I walk in because you got dinner cooking.
I mean, that is what every man wants. But so why the heck wouldn't you tell your wife how thankful you are for that?
The thing is, that little affirmation, that appreciation, I guarantee goes a lot farther than what a lot of us. But it's it's easy to take it for granted, and we just do. I mean, I know I'm guilty of it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we get so busy and so wrapped up into what we're doing, we stop thinking about the other person, and it's vice versa for women. That women are so caught up in, if they are a stay-at-home mom or if they're working, they're focused on what they have going on in their life, that they forget to say, hey, thank you for providing this amazing house for our family, or thank you for watching the kids when you got home so I could go take a bath or do whatever. Yeah. So it goes both ways, that compliments and appreciation to the other person. All the things that we mentioned, the love languages, the only one that maybe naively, but we believe is for both, is words of affirmation. And both sexes need that. I really love what Doug said about us being puzzle pieces, that God did not create us identical. He created us to complement each other and fit together. Right. We're not a circle that's cut in half and you put it together. No, there's all sorts of little intricate intricacies in there, but God did make us to fit together. We just need to figure out what those different things for our spouses and figure out how to, it's not fitting perfect. What can I do not to compete with her and force her to fit me? Is there anything that I can do so that I can fit her better?
It's, again, I think that the key word, compliment. We're built to complement each other. There's a reason we take those vows when we get married, and they're before God. And when you look at most people's vows, it is to love and protect and all those different things that come in the vows. But I mean, the big piece is we're supposed to just not compete,
which can be really hard for guys like us because we are taught our whole life to compete. We're competing in business every day. We were both athletes. We're going to go play golf later, and whether we want to admit it or not, I know you're going to kick my butt, but I'm still competing with you. In society, especially today's society, there's more competition today than ever, and not in the good traditional way. Competition used to mean sports or business. I think especially today more than ever, it's rich versus poor. It's gay versus straight. It's man versus woman. It's black versus white. Democrat versus Republican. We're force fed that one like crazy lately.
Well, but
it's always this competition when that's not the way it's supposed to be. Yes, we're supposed to compete to make each other better, but lately it just feels like everything, and it is seeping into the home. Everything is a me versus everybody else.
I think that the happiest families out there and groups and whatnot are the people that just ignore the societal BS that usually is just pushed by media, by today's media. I mean, like you said, everything is about division right now. They try to create division amongst everything: race, color, gender, everything.
Jew versus Muslim, Christian versus atheist. It's everywhere.
It's all about division. And the reality of it is it just doesn't have to be that way. And I think it starts, I truly believe the health of all of it begins and starts the marital relationships.
1,000,000,000%. Because that relationship affects the father to son relationship, the mother to son, the parent to child relationship. And that relationship will foster the next generation of marital relationships and friendships and coworker relationships. So the children seeing parents that are complementing, not competing, will teach them then how to do that in their own life when they're adults.
Yeah, and then you take that same idea and you put it into groups, right? Like, our tight-knit group can see how Rachel and I communicate and treat each other and respect each other and compliment each other and all that. And maybe they're in place in their marriage where they're not doing it so much, and it affects them where they're like, hey, we need to be a little more like that, or vice versa for us, right?
100%.
And then that group, we all know that in every group there's subgroups, right? And then again, there's that trickle effect of, I just truly believe that if the marriage is strong and the marriage is complementing each other, it goes to the kids' friends, it carries into the workplace. It just,
the relationships they have with their teachers, knowing respect, it all starts with how kids see mom and dad. And that is so huge. This male-female relationship, it does expand well beyond the marriage, right? So that is the sun in this galaxy, but there's also workplace relationships that males and females obviously have together. And in our businesses especially, it can be really, really tough because we are competing against everybody all the time. Even people within our own brokerages, our own sphere. At the end of the day, yes, I'm trying to feed my family, so I'm competing. But I work in a workplace that is female dominant. I think it's like 80% of real estate agents are female.
Oh, they
70.
really?
Oh, it's huge.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's very female dominated. And the respect, especially that I have for high income women like Kim that we had on, because she had to not only be a rock star real estate agent, she was also a mom.
Single mom.
A single mom. Yeah. That to me is wild because like I said earlier, I can't do what I'm doing without Kylie. It would not work. I don't know how I would make it work. I don't even want to imagine trying to make it work. So having a genuine respect, and female to male as well, having a respect for the other gender's perspective for what you're going through in a business deal, I think is huge because they're going to see things that you can't see.
Right.
They're going to understand this person's perspective that you can't understand even if you wanted to. So being open and putting the competition aside at times will go a long way for how you are viewed within your workplace by the opposite sex. You're going to be more appreciated. They are going to appreciate it more. It's only going to help you. It's not going to hurt you to get the perspective of the the opposite sex in the workplace.
You know, it, like you said, we're all commission-based, entrepreneurial, spirited people in our roles, right? Not the support role, but the MLO or the real estate agent. But the one thing that I guess I've loved over the years of being, involved in these high-level coaching programs is male, female. It doesn't really matter, man. There's no competition among the gender. It's just straight up competition. Who's going to have the best numbers, right? But we all lean on each other, and the beauty is there's none of us are really, even though we're competing against each other for who can get the most numbers. I mean, we're not really competing against each other for business. I've always had that mentality that there's enough business out there for all of them. And a lot of times that collaboration and the just the back and forth of what's working, what's not working, what are you doing, and whatnot. I mean, that's the fuel for that. Goes back to the old iron sharpens iron, right? I mean, that's two people that are really good at what they do, sharing ideas to get better. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. I've always just resented the agents or the LOs that are like, this is my little secret, I don't want to share it with anybody.
Right. Well, that's one of the many reasons we started doing this. We felt like we've been successful in what we've done, and we're not scared to share our successes or what we've done that hasn't worked with anybody who wants to listen. And if you don't want to listen, that's completely fine. But I've done talks within my brokerage about AI and video and all these things that the older generation of agent doesn't understand. Mm-hmm. And I have no fear in sharing that with them. Even though we're in the same marketplace, going after the same transactions, I'm 100% an open book, always have been, always will be.
And the beauty in that is, like you said, that's why we're here. Our whole vision of this podcast is, to make a difference. And the way to make a difference in people's lives is to share and, share ideas, share actual things that have happened in your life, things that are happening in my life, and the reality of it is all this same stuff is happening in just about everybody's life, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so funny when you go to church and you're like, a sermon, they could preach on a sermon, and Doug, like in this sermon particularly, could preach on this sermon, and the way it affected Rachel. And I guarantee you, we could talk to like 5 other people that were in that same sermon and be like, man, it was like Doug was talking to me. That sermon was like, it was like literally he knew what was going on in my life and he was speaking directly to me. Everybody feels that way every single sermon. It's literally we're all going through the same stuff. We're all dealing with all the same stuff. Mm-hmm. And, again, kind of wrap up. I mean, this is going to be a shorter one, obviously, because there's just not that much to talk about on this topic. But at the end of the day, I mean, again, we weren't put here the way we were put here by God and built to compete. It's to complement.
And we weren't made by accident. We were intentionally.
I don't think God was like, just throw some stuff and see what happens, right?
We were intentionally given the ingredients of who we are by God. Men were made a certain way, and they do fit together beautifully, right? And we go against that and fight and struggle with that creates division and resentment. And speaking to that, how do you think we avoid letting the differences that men and women have become division? And I'm putting you on the spot. How do we avoid letting our differences create division in a marriage?
I think the biggest understanding is truly knowing and believing and understanding that we are very different. I think a lot of times where we make the mistake is, something could happen in the marriage. So like, I'll use my marriage, right? And Rachel will say, well, I just wish you would have handled it differently. I would have handled it like this. And it's like, pause for a second. The way you would handle something and the way I would handle something are completely different because we're two completely different people. Mm-hmm. And I think that the expectation of why don't they just do it the way I would do it? That expectation, I think, is the kryptonite in every relationship. Mm-hmm. The difference, I think, is just understanding the differences and working towards how do we, Eddie always says this, be more curious. I think that if we were more curious instead of critical, then I think a lot of times it's going to work out in our favor. Understanding why is she upset about this, or why does she feel the need to compete with me on this? Understanding and being more curious of that so you can talk about it versus being critical of it or being defensive of it or whatnot. I don't know if that really answered your question, but
no, for me, I always try to remember how much I would hate my life if Kylie was exactly like me. I want her to be different. If it was 2 Chads living under one roof, I'd be a mess. The kids would never be to school on time. They would never have what they need in their backpack. I would forget to pay this. I love making money. I don't manage it very well. I just don't. I'm great at investing. I am great at putting money into my business. I am great at that sort of stuff. But when it comes to the mundane, pay this insurance, get this over here, Kylie excels at that infinitely better than me. I make the money and I am okay. I struggled with it a little bit at the beginning, handing those reins over to her. But at this point, I have. We have 3 bank accounts. I have mine, she has hers, and we have a joint account. And every single month, I have it set up, and I just put it in the joint account, and she takes care of it. And it does put weight on her. But Kylie, if you're watching, I wildly appreciate it that I am better at making money. It just is what it is. Make more money. She is much better at managing it. So we complement each other very well in that space. And handing over those reins at first, it was a difficult thing for me because I looked at it as, well, this is my money. I earned it. Why are you telling me to move it? But the older she has done a very good job of, I'm just going to say it, reining in my spending, because I was the spender in the relationship for sure. Kylie would be just as happy going to TJ Maxx and spending $100 there than going and buying a one thing for $100. She's amazing at that. And I am so blessed to have that wife. She doesn't need the designer handbag.
That is a blessing.
That is
because Rachel and I both
dude.
are not the greatest at that. I can proudly say I'm better than her at it, and I think she would admit that. But
I've never cared about brands. I've been a more impulsive buyer than her for sure. Like if I'm just walking through Shields and I see a new AR, I'm like, oh, I need that, and I'll just pick it up. Kylie will be like, no, search it, make sure it's the one that you want, because that's the only one you're getting for a while. And that's completely fine. I don't have a need to spend money. There's a substantial purchase that I've been wanting to make for a while, and I didn't, and it was a blessing that I didn't, because it would have put more stress on this slower time that we're experiencing in our business. So as much as I don't want to admit it, Kylie was right in that circumstance. So I love what you said too about being more curious. That is a big thing for me too, where I'll hear something and I'll only hear the words, but I won't think about where the words are coming from.
And honestly, the root is the most important piece.
100%
is understanding that.
Yeah.
And I mean, needless to say, I have a lot of friends that lean on me for advice when it comes to marriages and whatnot. And I don't even feel, I have a failed marriage and this is my second. So I don't really feel like I always am the right one for the advice. But nevertheless, Rachel and I, what we do have is pretty special. And I'm a curious person by design, always have been. If I could look back and say probably where I messed up in the first one is I wasn't as curious. And with Rachel, I've put that in my mind of even for myself lately. Guys, I'm 51 years old. This isn't like something I figured out at 20. I've got a lot of experience behind me, but I even sometimes get curious with myself. Like when I get a little upset or stressed out or whatever about something is asking myself, like, where's that? Why are you feeling that way? And it's, honestly, man, if there's one takeaway that somebody could get from this that maybe doesn't even align with this podcast is be more curious in your own emotions and feelings, and 100% be more curious in your spouse's feelings, or even in the workplace. Like we were talking about in the workplace, you got somebody that's treating you a certain way or whatnot. Maybe try to just understand where they're coming from. You never know what's the cause of that.
That might be one of the best nuggets I've ever heard you drop, because it's true.
Sometimes we get into an argument and she feels a certain way, and I'm just like, baby, what's making you feel that way? I need to understand why you feel that way so I can either A, not do it, or B, we talk through it. But I need to understand it.
Without that understanding, you're only going to feel like you're competing. You're only going to feel animosity if a situation isn't going the way that you want it to. And frankly, she might be feeling a certain way and you think she's feeling that way for this reason, but it has nothing to do with that. I can't tell you how many times it's happened in our relationship where Kylie comes to me with something and I immediately get defensive, and in my mind it's because of this, when in reality it has dang nothing to do with thing that I'm getting defensive about.
Is, right? Yeah.
It's communication is key. That is going to help you so much when it comes to complimenting and not competing. That is the crux of any relationship you have. Any business relationship, any marital relationship with your kids. Communication is the number one key to all of it. And let's face it, as men, we fall short in that. God, in all of his wisdom, I don't know if he left out the communication piece in us or he just really poured that ingredient in the women, but we don't necessarily line up on that. And as men, we need to recognize and understand that and do better. I love that. Be more curious.
Yeah. But, going back to, as we wrap this up, again, it's a short one today, but the compliment piece, not only compliment is in how we're meaning it to be, but compliment is in verbally compliment your wife or your spouse, whether you're the husband or the wife, or even in the workplace, when somebody does really good, compliment them. I think, again, those words of affirmation, I don't think we do it enough. And I don't care who you are. You appreciate it.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
You know, when, a couple of months ago, I think I was the number one in volume last month or whatever. And I had several of the management, and I didn't really need it, but did it feel good that
Being recognized
the
feels
president of mortgage for our bank, reached out and was like, dude, kill her mom. Yeah, just makes you feel good.
Makes you feel good.
I know whenever Rachel cleans up the kitchen or does, cleans up the house or their bedroom, and I walk in and it smells nice and it's all done and whatnot. I mean, I know she wants that, instead of the expectation of it just being done. Like, hey, babe, yeah, it's nice to come home to a clean house. Thank you. It goes a long ways. So those little simple things that I know some people may roll their eyes at it, but the reality of it matters.
Oh, it so does.
Yeah.
So shout out to Doug. That was a spectacular dude. You do it amazing every time. Sean, you do it amazing every time. The whole crew over there does. We are honored to be members of your church and what you've built. So thank you so much for doing that. Well, no matter what you are going through, given the fact that Red Rocks has been around for 20 years, whether you're a follower of God or not, I guarantee that Red Rocks has done a sermon on whatever you're going through. Death, divorce, anxiety is a huge one, drugs, financial stress. It doesn't matter. Red Rocks has hit on it. And the way that they do it is so inviting and welcoming and never from a place of power, of you need to hear what I am saying because I'm better than you. That's never what it is.
Never.
It's I screwed this up too. I am a broken human. Here is what God says can help you. And whether you're a Christian or not, here, the Bible is the most positive force in our world. So whether you're a Christian or not, hearing those words, I guarantee you'll help you. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
Hands down. So thanks, guys. Again, always, if you got something out of this, share it with somebody else. Comment. We'd love to communicate with you.
Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell. We love you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
See ya.